What if I told you that the secret to a successful food forest is right beneath your feet? That's right. And you don't need acres of land in order to grow abundance. All you need to do is tend to the soil you have. Today's video is all about soil health. So let's dive in to this dirty topic. Hi, I'm Christina with Forever Food Forest, a channel where I explore ways of growing food without the use of herbicides, pesticides, or commercial fertilizers. And instead, I rely on permaculture gardening principles and other natural farming techniques to grow food. The most common question I get is, how much do you spend on soil and fertilizer to maintain your food forest? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. And today I'm going to discuss and demonstrate some of the techniques that you can use in order to grow lots of food while keeping your costs way down. A food forest is not just a garden. It is a sustainable and resilient system for growing your own food. The key to a successful food forest is mimicking nature by planting in layers, and also by fostering symbiotic relationships between plants in a way of companion plantings, as well as beneficial insects and microbes in the soil. This way of growing minimizes the need for herbicides, pesticides, and weeding. And it all starts with building your soil. What are the characteristics of healthy soils? You might be thinking, nutrients, obviously. Well, there are plenty of places around the world that have nutrient and mineral-rich soils, but still produce stunted plants with limited yields. And that's because while the minerals are abundant, they are not in a form that the plants can use. Having too many nutrients can cause just as many problems as not having enough. For example, nitrogen. While an excess of nitrogen does promote rapid growth, it also acts as a beacon for attracting aphids who love to feed on the tender new greens. But you know who loves breaking down minerals? Fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms. And that's why it's so crucial to incorporate them into your soil's microbiome in order to have productive harvests. And these beneficial microbes not only help feed the plants, they also form symbiotic relationships with the plants and prevent them from being eaten by pests and attacked by diseases. So you might be thinking, okay, where do I buy this protozoa, mycorrhiza, fungi, bacteria? Well, you most certainly can purchase certain strains of mycorrhiza, lactobacillus, and fungi to add to your soil. Keep in mind that you are adding microorganisms that are not indigenous to your area and may not thrive in your environment. And that's why my approach is to build it being the soil, and they will come. One of the fastest and easiest ways for incorporating microbes into your soil is by adding compost. If you watched my videos long enough, you probably heard me preaching about the magic of compost. I love compost. I think it's one of the best soil amendments that we can add here in Florida. Not only is it full of slow release nutrients, it's also teeming with microbes. You see, compost starts off as organic matter, and microbes such as fungi and bacteria are the ones that break it down. And depending on where you live, compost can be fairly easy to source. Some municipalities also have piles of compost that you can take freely at the city dump. There are some services, especially in Orange County, that go around, pick up your food scraps, and then turn them into compost. The one thing that you do have to be careful when you are just picking up random compost is, what is it made of? If you're avoiding toxic dyes, microplastic, and chemical products, it is not guaranteed that those did not end up in your compost. One of my favorite sources is to look on Facebook Marketplace. Depending on your area, you might be able to find a lot of different people who are making compost, and some of them might even be willing to deliver it. Now let's talk about different types of compost, because they are not all created equal. The most common type of compost that I see in our area is horse manure. And horse manure is great because it's cheap, you can get it in bulk. It does have some drawbacks because it is considered an incomplete compost. It's rich in carbon, it's rich in urea, which is nitrogen, and those are great, but it does lack a lot of those micronutrients. Another type of compost that you might see is composted wood chips. Since wood chips are rich in carbon, they promote fungal activity. And fungus-rich compost is perfect for feeding trees because trees actually form a symbiotic relationship with different types of fungi. The third most popular type of compost that you can find in bulk is mushroom compost. And mushroom compost is a byproduct of the mushroom growing industry. I actually just tried growing some mushrooms and I made a video about that last week. So if you want to check that out and see that whole process, it's very in-depth. So one of the characteristics of the mushroom compost is that it is going to be rich in fungal activity. It also tends to be a little bit more alkaline and have some residual salts as a byproduct of the mushroom growing process. Mushroom compost most often starts off as either sawdust, coco coir, peat moss, vermiculite, perlite, or a combination of those, as well as added minerals such as gypsum or lime. And that makes it an excellent soil amendment for improving texture and structure of your soil. So this is actually one of my mushroom growing blocks. Pretty soon this part right here that's rich in mycelium is going to turn into mushroom compost. And this is the actual lion's mane mushroom. If you have chickens, you probably already know about the wonders that chicken manure can do for your garden. Chicken manure is rich in bacterial activity, so it's perfect for using in vegetable patches. Chicken manure can be a little bit more difficult to source by the truckload, but if you look hard enough, you might be able to find somebody who's willing to part with it in 5-gallon increments. Same goes for rabbit manure and other herbivores like donkeys and zebras. So right over here is where we keep all of our different types of compost. Some things that have not turned into compost yet, and some that have already been composted and are ready to use. All right, so if you have more time than money, do I have an option for you for improving the health of your soil? And it's as easy as collecting yard waste and throwing it into a trench, which is exactly what we're doing here in preparation for planting perennials. This method is sometimes called the banana circle method. It's a popular permaculture practice. It's as simple as digging out native soil, throwing in organic materials such as old annuals, spent plants, grass clippings, things like that. Then you top that off with your native soil. Wait anywhere 6 months to a year, maybe a little less if you're in Florida, and then you can plant on top. And this is an excellent way of improving your soil health because as all of these organic materials are breaking down, the fungi are growing their hyphae. When you plant your annuals, they're just going to be plugging right into that mycelial network. If you prefer to keep things a little bit more neat and organized, here is a great option for you. This is, I think they call this a worm bin, but basically it's a 5-gallon bucket with a bunch of holes drilled throughout. You take your kitchen scraps, you put them in here, you cover it up. The worms come in through the holes, they munch on all of your delicious kitchen scraps and leave behind nutrient-rich worm castings. Then they go back in the soil, they aerate your soil, and we like worms. Worms are our friends. Now I realize that this method of preparing garden beds might horrify some people. However, it is very effective at building that healthy microbiome as long as you keep everything in check. Up until recently, I didn't even know this had a name, but someone in the comments mentioned double dig method, and after I looked into it, I was like, this is what we have been using here at Forever Food Forest. So a double dig method, the way that it works is when you set up your garden bed, the first thing you do is you're going to dig out about 6 to 12 inches of native soil from underneath. You fill that with kitchen scraps, organic material, as you see here. Then you top that off with native soil. Then you do another layer of organic material, cover that with native soil, wait for it to compost down, and start planting. Now the key to this method is you want to have the right balance of carbon and nitrogen-rich materials. If you're too heavy on the nitrogen, you're going to promote bad bacteria, and if you have too much carbon, it's going to take a really long time to break down, and it's going to steal the nitrogen from the soil and stunt your growth. I've also heard a lot of people having success with using a hugelkultur method. Hugelkultur is kind of same idea as a double dig, but totally opposite. So instead of going into the ground, you go above. So you start with a layer of carbon-rich materials such as branches, wood stumps, and then you cover that with a layer of native soil, creating sort of a mound, and you plant on top of that mound. Depending on where you live, that is another option for you. Now, some people might be wondering, does this attract rats? Yes. Rats are not particularly picky about where they go though, so you better get yourself some owls and a hawk and a bunch of cats. Soil, when exposed to UV, is prone to desertification. What does that mean? You guys remember the Dust Bowl? Ah! Raccoon! I'm sorry. One of the most detrimental things that you can do during the summer is leave your soil bare. Just like our skin burns when exposed to UV rays, the soil is prone to desertification. Leaving the soil bare not only causes the top layer to erode, it also causes a lot of the microbes and nutrients to deplete. So that's why Forever Food Forest looks like a jungle right now. And these living mulches serve several purposes. Yes, they protect the soil from the sun and erosion, but they also provide us with food. And once we harvest our pumpkins, we're also going to have lots and lots of green nitrogen-rich materials to add to our compost. Now, if you're not a fan of the jungle aesthetic, and I realize not everyone is, there are many other options of mulches that you can use to improve your soil health. You can use arborist wood chip mulch. You can also use the chop and drop method or cover crops. Cover crops such as black-eyed peas or cowpeas, clover, wheat, not only help improve the soil structure, they also can be chopped and dropped and recycled back into the soil. And the cool thing about wheat is you can also harvest the wheat and then use the straw as a mulch at a later date. Employing these methods helps us reduce the amount of fertilizers by making the nutrients more readily available for plants. Encouraging the growth of beneficial fungi in our soil not only helps improve the soil structure, it also helps prevent plant diseases as the good fungi outcompete the bad ones. And the underground mycelial network also acts as a superhighway for delivering nutrients to all of our plants. Another thing that I noticed after employing these methods is the reduction of pest pressure and plant diseases. Another way that we can encourage better soil health is by growing a variety of plants such as annuals and perennials that can sustain a wide range of beneficial microbes. Hopefully this was informative. Thank you all for watching. You made it to the very end. It's 90 degrees and 100% humidity right now. I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes, but I wanted to get this video out to you. And if you made it this far, I want to encourage you to come check out my website, foreverfoodforest.com. Try my interactive garden guide, chat with a food forest expert, and sign up for my newsletter. I promise I won't spam your inbox. Thanks for watching. I see a passion fruit that I need to get to, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.